Hello everybody, welcome back to the workshop. So in this video, I'm going to be showing you how to make a really super easy and cheap bending fork for yourself. The bending fork, it can be used for all sorts of bends, but one of the predominant things that it can be very helpful for you for is doing scroll work. So I've got a piece good and hot in here. In fact, some would say a little too hot. And this is a piece of 1/2-inch rod. Now I consider 1/2-inch rod as the bare bones minimum for the bending fork to resist, bending or torquing if you're making it out of mild steel. So that is 12mm rod for you guys across the pond. That's about the minimum if you're going to be making it out of mild steel. So it's going to go pretty quick and simple. We're just going to go to the edge of the anvil. We're going to want to take and put out about 3 inches or 75 mil across the outside of the anvil there, and we're going to bend what looks like roughly a right angle 90 here, and you want to focus right in at the corner of this fork here, just like so. You want to watch that you don't forge this square here, the actual fork portion that this is going to be. So again, so there we go. We've got that little bit. Like I said, this is going to go pretty darn quick, so keep your eyes on it here. Oftentimes in forging, we try to take and make things complex, or hey, you need a welder for this, or you can't do this, you can't do that. Well, you can't do this because I don't have this tool. You are a blacksmith. Make the tool to make the tool. You are the master of all craftsmen when it comes to making tools for other craftsmen, making tools for yourself. So don't use that as a tired excuse. I use that a lot sometimes. I'm like, well, I could do this, but I don't have this tool. Although a new tool might make you more efficient or be a little more helpful to you in some cases, or will help your business be able to be more productive, sometimes you just have to put in the work, put in the effort. So here's a bending fork that's just simply a U bent out of a piece of 1/2 inch or 12 mil round with a 1-inch hardy shank or 25 mil square hardy shank welded onto it. But if you don't have a welder, you don't have electrical power to take and make that, you need to come up with something different. So that's what we're doing with this fork. So now I got a little extra heat on here. We're going to bend this straight on back now. I want to drive that down a bit. Drive that mass down. And now this is too small to put in on my pritchel hole here, but we can take and you can make it for all sorts of things. I just wanted to show you that for a second. At this stage, you can take this, what's beginning to be a fork, and put it in a pritchel hole. Say you have a 3/8 hole, you would just forge this down, or a 9 mil hole. You would just forge this section down a little bit to where it could fit in the pritchel hole. Now, the problem with that is that it's going to spin some on you, right? So we don't want to take and have it spin. That's why we put it in the hardy hole instead. That's why we usually forge things square. As you can see, this doesn't do that. So what's the logical thought here? The logical thought is there must be some other way that we're going to end up gripping this bending fork. And there is. We're going to use a vise. Now, you don't need a special vise. You don't need a leg vise. You just need a cheap, generic vise. Anything that can grip this piece and hold it in the vise. Again, it's cheap. If you have the bare shop setup, you have a forge, you have an anvil, you have a vise, you're basically set to make just about all of your tools that you could ever want or need to make. So we're going to get this hot again. And now we're going to set the distance between the tines. We're going to do that with a piece of 1/4 inch thick by 1 inch flat stock, because I want these to be really small bending forks. I've got pretty big scroll bending forks out of everything like this, but I don't have anything to grip small stuff, like really small material. So that 6 mil by 25 mil is going to come real in handy for that, to just have this little tiny bending fork. So we'll bring the piece out once it's hot enough. We're almost there. I've decided to opt out of the blower today just because I figure, you know, it's easier on my voice. We're back to using green coal. For those of you that's been following along, I'm using a little bit of both. I'm using power assist in using coke, and I'm using green coal as well. And just kind of playing back and forth depending on whichever one's working out for me for that day. So, all right, I'm going to use a pair of tongs to grip the 1/4x1. That way I can insert it in there. We're going to push that in to our fork. And just like that, we've set our spacing. I'm hitting just beyond the piece here, almost to drive it off to one side, and then I'm keeping that 1/4x1 spacing, just like so. I'm going to have to take this end open a little bit more. And there we have it. So now we've got ourselves a small little bending fork. The last thing for us to have to do is do a little bit of straighten up. Now we can just take and cut this off either with a saw, but like I said, doing it with almost no tools at your disposal. I'm going to go ahead and heat this up, and I'm going to take and cut it off with my Hardy. Now say you don't have a hot cut Hardy, you can cut it off with a standard cold chisel that you can buy at any hardware store. It doesn't even have to be a good cold chisel. Heck, it could just be a mild steel bar that has an edge drawn on it at first. As long as you're working the piece hot and cutting off hot, it'll work out good for you. All right, enough hammering on. Get this to temp. I'm switching hammers up here to a soft face hammer. Again, that soft face hammer is just mild steel. That way if I miss, I don't damage my high carbon steel face or the Hardy. If I miss with this, it's just going to nick this face, and I don't really care about that. So it protects the main tool that goes in the anvil. Get this good and hot here. And we're almost ready to cut. Okay, so we want to get that nice and even. Find a spot. Go full 180 degrees over, so on, so forth. You want to try not to end up bending the fork too much. You just want to aim at that joint that needs to be cut off. That way we don't get it out of hand. And now I'm just going to grab a pair of tongs and break this off once it gets a little cooler. But before I do that, let's go ahead and brush this, shall we? Now you can clean the tops of this up with a file or whatever you will. I'm not going to show that part. I'm just going to go ahead and show you this in use now. I want to take this time to just say thank you again for joining me here in the workshop today. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, hit that like button and share it with your friends. That your support greatly is appreciated. And if you'd like to take and support what Jessica and I do here financially, a great way of doing that is going over to our website at blacksmithpdfs.com and checking out maybe a power hammer plan or ebook around starting a blacksmithing business. Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get the camera reset up over at the vise so I can show you how this works.